I've been working outside this morning and I'm really craving something cold and sweet and good. So I'm going to make a drink that I've been enjoying, and I want to share with you how to make it. Now the main ingredient is Postum. You may or may not have heard of Postum. Postum was first created in World War II when there was rations, going around everywhere, lots of different things, but especially for coffee. Coffee was hard to come by, hard to get. So they developed Postum. It's actually made from like a roasted wheat. And there's several different little flavors you can get. This is the original flavor, and that's what I like. This is what I drink every morning. So you may be wondering, why do you not drink coffee, Tipper? I was a coffee drinker. I liked coffee only in the morning. I wasn't someone that drank it all day long or anything like that. But in probably 2017, something like that, I was diagnosed with cystitis and had a terrible time before I ever found out really what was wrong with me. And I thought I was dying. I think my family thought that too. I couldn't get off the couch, but I didn't really know what was causing it, and that my pain and my sickness, and the doctors didn't. And they kept treating me for like a urinary tract infection. Well, Miss Cindy, she was always ready with her all-natural remedies, and so she got me pure cranberry juice, and I was drinking that round the clock trying to cure that. Turns out that was like pouring gasoline on the fire of my cystitis. Anyway, by the time when I finally got to a doctor who diagnosed me, and of course no more cranberry juice, but also no more caffeine, so I had to give up the coffee, which I didn't care a bit. If I could feel better and get off the couch, that was fine with me. And so it was easy for me to give that up and to immediately start feeling better once I took some medicine, and then I just changed my diet, basically is what I had to do. Anyway, the thing I missed most, I did miss the coffee, but mostly I just missed that, when you get up in the morning, that was the first thing I did. I come to the kitchen, I turned on the coffee and, got ready for work, and then had my coffee. I even took a cup of coffee with me to work, and I just missed that drinking something, of the morning. And so Miss Cindy set out to try to help me find something, and I tried 2 or 3, like, you can buy coffee that doesn't have acid, or of course decaffeinated coffee, but mostly I had to worry about the acid too. So I tried a couple of them and didn't really care for them. And then finally she remembered that her grandparents drank Postum. So she said, why don't we get some Postum and you just see, Tipper, see what you think about it. So she did, and I drank it and I liked it, and I've been drinking it ever since. It's, like I said, there's different flavors. It's all decaffeinated though. You can't get it with caffeine if that's the part that you need. And I understand Matt's a coffee drinker, Pap was a coffee drinker, Granny's a coffee drinker, so I understand people that love coffee. But there's a cocoa blend, a natural coffee blend, and then just the original, and that's what I like. But you could try any of those if you wanted to. And the way that I fix mine, a lot of people, I did one video about Postum a couple of years ago, and people ask, one of the most common questions after that was, how in the world do you get it to mix up? Well, what I do is I put my Postum, I put 2 teaspoons in a cup, in a regular sized coffee cup, maybe a little bit bigger than a coffee cup, because I use like a handmade mug, but not one of the great big ones. And then I put that in there, then I pour boiling water over it, and then I stir. And that seems to work okay for me. There may be tips and tricks on the Postum website. I'll put that website in the description below so you can go and read about it there. But this is the one that I prefer, but you could try those others. Another thing is, where do you buy it? Where do you get it from? You can buy it online directly from Postum, from the folks that make it. You can buy it in my area where I live. Both Walmart and my local grocery store, Ingles, has it. So you might check at your grocery store or something like that. Now, while I have been drinking my morning cup of Postum all these years, and I put, same as I took my coffee, I put half and half in it, is what I put in it. And as far as, that's what I was going to say a minute ago, as far as the taste, I would say the original is somewhere between a hot chocolate and a coffee. It's not got a real strong flavor, so you may or you may not like it. Anyway, so I've been drinking it for many years. Well, I did that video that I just mentioned a few years ago. I actually shared Granny's hot chocolate recipe and then the Postum that I drink. I talked about Postum. And the kind folks at Postum contacted me, and they said they loved the video and they wanted to send me some Postum, which was really nice, and they did. And they also, though, asked me, said, did you know you can cook with Postum? I was like, no, I didn't know. So they sent me a recipe of a Postum cake that is delicious, and I did a video about that, so I will link to that in case you're interested. But then also on their website, there's other recipes. So there's a few other ones. Again, I'll put that link in the description. So the one I'm going to share with you today is actually perfect for summertime. Now, the name of it is it's really simple, but it's a Postum Frappe. I'm not somebody, I have never in my life bought coffee, or one of those like iced coffees or sweet coffees. I have friends that love them, but I've never been that kind of person that buys just a drink, unless I'm eating out somewhere, and I don't do that much. I don't like stop at a gas station for a Coke or anything like that. I've just never done that. So I've certainly never drunk any of the iced coffees or anything. But when I tried this, I really liked it. Probably because I love the flavor of the Postum, and then it's using ice, so the recipe turns out kind of like a milkshake. So it's really, really good, I think, and Matt likes it. Katie took one little small sip and she liked it, but she can't drink it because it's got milk in it because of the baby. So anyway, I'm going to show you how it's so super easy to make. And there's other recipes. There's one that I've not tried yet that I want to, is a coconut drink. That sounds really good. I want to try that one. But for this one, you need 2 cups of whole milk. I've got that. 1 cup of ice, 3 tablespoons of sugar, and 2 tablespoons of the Postum. If you wanted to back up on the sugar, if that's way too much sugar for you, that would be it'd be just as good if you could just do that part to taste. And then we're just going to blend it up in a blender. I'm using Miss Cindy's old Vitamix. She had it forever, and after she passed away, I got it. So it's a workhorse. You can tell it's an older model and been used a lot, but it makes it really quick to whip this up. There's my, make sure I've got it on there. Nice. You can see how luscious and thick it gets there. That ice and the milk. I'm going to take Matt his drink. I'm going to take mine outside and sit in the shade and share a little article with you from John Parris, which I think fits perfectly with the nostalgia of Postum, and also the nostalgia that I've been thinking about this morning as I worked in my flowers. Really hits the spot after being outside all morning working. It's cold. Of course, it's sweet because of that sugar. And then the Postum just has really good flavor. And mixing the ice with it really does make the milk, I mean, it's almost like a milkshake, even though it's not. I guess that's what frappes are. See, I don't know because I've never had one other than this that I make at home. Really good. So what I wanted to read to you is just a little short thing. It's John Parris is one of my favorite writers. He's no longer with us, but he wrote for many, many years for the Asheville Citizen-Times. So he wrote about Western North Carolina. He wrote about where I live, and he wrote about the old ways, old folklore, old legends and different things like that. So I just dearly love all of his writings. This one I'm reading today comes from his book, My Mountains, My People. Now his books are hard to find, but this is one that they have reprinted. As you can tell, looks like a new book. I had a copy of this, but this one, Angela LaForest sent it to me. Thank you, Angela. Mine is old, so I can preserve my older one and use this one. And just full of his writings, just little short. You think of it as short stories, but it's actually just the articles. So this one is A Heartbeat of Molded Time. Memory is a golden thing. It's a breath of yesterday, a heartbeat of molded time. The old ones, sitting in the twilight of their years, treasure it as sort of Aladdin's lamp whose magic returns them to their lost youth. And because they do, the past becomes something more than just a faded, forgotten remnant of time. It becomes a pageant of people and dreams. A house emerges on yonder knoll where cows graze. There's a sharp ring of an anvil, loud talk and louder laughter. A log church sits back from the winding little dirt road. A barefoot boy with a dream sits on a stool in the shade of the blacksmith shop and watches hour after hour while the smithy works at his trade. That's the way the old man remembered how it was when he was a boy in the valley of Cartugajay. There always will be room for nostalgia, and maybe for a slight tear it brings to the eye of an old-timer who knew this country when a rainy day, gray and chill, somehow lulls a body into a mood for recalling old things and old ways and old customs. This seems particularly true if there is a simmering fire and the rain is a steady rain. It was that kind of a day today, and the old man and his grandson were of the same mood as they talked of many things, the old man remembering when churches had an amen corner, and the grandson remembering when a boy with a buck-handled Barlow knife figured he owned the world. I recollect, said the old man, when folks used barley as a substitute for green coffee and dried their own apples, which were as tough as leather if you tried to eat 'em raw. Those were days when the churn, the apple butter pot, and the venerable quilting frames were conspicuous in every mountain household. Boneset tea was the conventional remedy for a cough, and a cup of this bitter concoction, even if it did not cure, was calculated to make the patient forget all else for a time at least. "Bitterest thing you ever tasted," said the old man. The old man grew up when the rocking chair was an institution. It's vanishing now, and that's a pity and a shame, for there's something about sitting in a rocking chair that is conducive to good talk and tall talk. Together the old man and his grandson swapped memories, and each recalled the eras they remembered best and the things that appealed most to them. The grandson wondered if boys still make bean shooters out of river cane or swing on wild grapevines. And the old man talked about the circuit riding judges and preachers, and when crackers were shipped in barrels and folks sat around the cracker barrel at the country store and spun yarns. They remembered each to his time when. Every boy was taught of what to do to make his cowhide shoes winter through. The tin dipper hung beside the overflowing water trough. Folks carried match safes and loaded them with big matches. Molasses or vinegar or coal oil were drawn from barrels in the side room of the store. The barber shop was a gathering place for the men who liked to play checkers. Little boys made cornstalk fiddles the same way little girls made rag dolls. Women bought their food at the country store from bins and barrels. Veils were called bonnet curtains. Cakewalks and box suppers were the vogue. Calico was called muslin, and prints were called calico. Camphor was the steady standby. Boys collected little metal chewing tobacco tags. Packs of cigarettes contained pictures, and little boys collected full sets of flags, baseball players, and actresses, and traded among themselves. The clock peddler made a couple of trips a year. Folks shaved with straight razors and paid a fancy price for fancy shaving mugs. Eggs sold at 10 cents a dozen, and chickens at 10 cents apiece. Passenger trains ran through the mountains twice daily, and the whole town turned out to meet the train. The post office replaced the barber shop, and the general store as a gathering place to visit and gossip and swap news. The hardware store was a magazine of wonders for small boys. Buggy whips by the dozen either stood in a corner or were racked along the wall at the general store, which handled a little bit of everything. It took 6 cents to buy a cone of ice cream. The grandson remembered when folks made little pillows and stuffed them with the aromatic needles of the balsam tree and sold them to visitors. And the old man remembered when covered bridges spanned the rivers and creeks in the mountains. Together they set the echoes flying from out of the past and stirred the whispers of yesterday on this rainy day. I just love it. I love John Parris's writing, of course, because I'm a nostalgic, sentimental person. Of course, it's not a rainy day today, by no means. I need for it to be a rainy day. I need to have some rain on my gardens, on mine and Matt's gardens. But I have been feeling nostalgic today, planting flowers and talking about where I got this plant or where I got that plant, thinking about it. I went down to help to Granny's and planted some things for her. Of course, that always makes me feel nostalgic. So it kind of fits with what I was feeling, even down to the part, I didn't think about this, it's just one of those, some of you told me it was a God wink. I never think of it's a coincidence. I always think it's God, but I didn't know that term, God wink. But even down to the old man's remembering that they substituted barley for green coffee. I think, well, isn't that perfect that I wanted to read this, and then I was going to talk about the Postum too. So every time that I read John Parris, one of these lists like this, he's kind of known for that type of writing. Every time I always think there's so many things in there that's gone by the wayside, that's no longer the way it is today. And somehow that makes me feel a little less or something, but then there's always some stuff that's still there, and that always makes me feel hopeful. And of course I know times change, and you can't stop that, and I'm glad that I live where I do, and I'm thankful for all my modern conveniences and all that kind of stuff. But it is still fun to think about those old days, and then to think about what's the same and what's changed. So I like the part when he was talking about, description of maybe he would hear the anvil, hear the blacksmith hammering on the anvil, and then even looking over at the knoll there, yonder, and there used to be a house there. Well, I have the great fortune of living in the same mountain holler that I was, raised up in. So, oh my, I can see so many changes, My Mama and Papa's house is gone, no longer there. There was some outbuildings on down the road from there, no longer there. The apple trees in the curve, no longer there. And then when I think about those sounds, probably the thing that comes to mind first is all the youngins, all the cousins growing up with me, and the yelling here and there and hollering at each other and playing and fighting some too, and all that, all those voices from long ago that are all grown up and gone now. I think about the pond. We used to have a pond in the holler that my Uncle Ray built. It's been filled in now in the way of progress, but that's where I learned how to swim. So I hear those noises. I think about on a late summer day like today, we would all be begging to be able to go swimming in the pond. It was a very small pond, but it was still big enough for several of us to learn how to swim there. I think about the joy of riding bicycles. We used to love to ride bicycles. That was such a joy. Such a joy. So a lot of those memories of being able to look around you and remember what was once there. I think John Parris just says when is how he's describing it. I can certainly identify with that. And then as far as the things that I would say are still the same out of all those things they listed, my church still has people that say amen, amen. It's not necessarily the amen corner. It may be spread around the church, but it's definitely still there. Even the Barlow knife. There's at least a few young men, and maybe even young girls too. Corey and Katie carried knives when they were young, out and about, because you never knew what you might want to, cut down a little tree or a little twig or a branch or whatever they were playing. So there's still a few people, a few youngsters carrying a Barlow knife. I mentioned the barley and the wheat. Definitely I'm using the wheat today and every day, every morning, not barley though. Churn, he mentioned using churns. Me and Matt are lucky enough to have some old churns, and we like to make kraut in them. We've made pickled beans and corn in them before. I know a lot of people do. Of course, quilting. I just got through reading a wonderful book about quilting here on the channel, so quilting is still a mainstay. The grapevines, he mentioned swinging on grapevines. Now, I've not swung on one in a long time, but I certainly did that as a youngster, and Corey and Katie did that too, and I hope to do that with my grandsons. Cakewalks. You'll have to tell me if you have cakewalks in your area. At fundraisers, local fundraisers at the community center over in Martins Creek, there's still cakewalks. We still have cakewalks. If it's maybe a benefit singing for somebody, you know, that's got hospital bills or having a hard time, something like that, a lot of times that's part of the benefit, is that women will bring cakes and donate them, and then at some point during the night of the benefit they'll have a cakewalk, and you know, everybody will give $1 so that they can be in the cakewalk and then hopefully win the cake and get to take it home. And even the little pillows of needles that he mentioned, I have a little pillow like that, about like that. My mother-in-law, Janet, my stepmother Janet, Nana, we call her, just call her Nana, she got it for me many years ago for Christmas. I'm not even sure I had Corey and Katie. If I did, they were really little. It might have been like right when me and Matt first got married. I still have it in my living room in my little rocking chair that was mine when I was a little girl, and it still smells wonderful today, all these years later. So I really love that part too. I hope you enjoyed hearing from John Parris, and I guess I thank you for letting me be nostalgic today. It's just kind of how I've been feeling all day. And I hope that if you try the Postum Frappe, you will really enjoy it. I'm always glad when you stop by to help me celebrate Appalachia.